Welcome to the All Rounders Podcast, episode 10.
10.
Nons, what's happening?
Sure.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Some people are busier than others.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. Look, we are busy. Jay. We are busy. Let's get right into it.
Yeah,
Nons.
into it, yeah.
We don't have a lot of time. We're trying to cut this as short as we possibly can. Let's start with the Rugby World Cup then, because what a moment for South Africa, what a moment for the players that were involved in that Rugby World Cup win. Just your thoughts. Where were you? What did you think of that Rugby World Cup win?
I think I got to start with, I saw a video of them officially going home.
Yeah.
They separate ways. They look like guys who had a hell of a week. Yeah. I did feel for them because you're like, since last Saturday, they've been at it.
Yeah.
Every day. Remember, I think was it Elizabeth. City Elizabeth. He doesn't remember the last time he drank water. I was like, and now imagine doing that for like 8 days.
Yeah, nice.
But unbelievable. The scenes that we've seen this past week. Goosebump stuff. And especially shout out to the people of Kwalanga. That was incredible. That was incredible. Scomline. 7455. Pagaman.
7455. Voila. Scomline.
That was beautiful, man. To see, like, we almost had it FOMO. Like, you want to be there, be part of it. The pictures. This is what this team can do for this country. This is what sport can do for the country. And I think it couldn't have happened to a better group of people. How they've conducted themselves, how they've obviously played. You leave everything on the pitch, and of course, what it means to them, for the country, for the people. And you said 2019, they belong this team. Sama Pogopog for the country.
Yes.
They never planned to win the 2019 World Cup, and this one, with expectations to have delivered, speaks volumes. And well done to Jacques on his way out as well. So I think we could continue having this conversation forever to just give these guys credit for epic our hearts. I think the last 4 weeks were
Now, for what stands out for me, Nons, throughout this Rugby World Cup campaign was, it's 20-something weeks that these guys were together. 20-odd weeks. You're seeing the same people every day of your lives. And that's hard. It's hard because...
Testosterone.
I can't see the same people every day for 21 weeks. I'm going to get bored. And that's the sacrifice that these guys make. And people were saying on social media, but why is Damian Willems still in his Rugby World Cup final kit? Why is Desmond Kobe still in his strapping? Do you understand the magnitude of winning back-to-back Rugby World Cups, having sacrificed so much for so long, 20-odd weeks on the road, you sometimes away from family, sometimes you see them for a limited amount of time. And then when you actually achieve what you set out to do, must be one of the best feelings ever, and to celebrate in the way that they celebrated,
it's warranted. It's deserved.
For me, it's deserved.
And I think there was a moment where Ujak was speaking at the Capitol, and he said there were moments in the build-up where they had to change the team. I think it was against Wales. And people trusted the process. And like, it just shows how much planning, how much thought that goes into winning. We speak about giving the experience to, group of 33. You're finding game opportunities for all of them. Because the nice part about the Springboks in this World Cup, we always said the difference between the number one and the number two wasn't that big.
Nope.
When you look at Wonambi, you look at Malcolm Marx, there's not much of a difference. And to see a third choice also coming in on the 5th minute and having an epic game, a 36-year-old in the final show, it's just that's the planning that goes behind the scenes, making sure I understand the roles, understand what it takes. And for me, really incredible planning from, I think, from the word go, 6 years together.
Yeah.
Guys like Damon, 25 years old, has won two World Cups.
Oh.
I'm thinking Francois stay in territory,
Yeah.
you know. So he's got another probably two World Cups to go. Incredible month, incredible scenes in South Africa. We hope, we do hope that on the other side we want to continue with the hype, but that's the other World Cup for later.
We were gonna speak about the negatives, but I don't feel like we should.
Which ones though?
New Zealand complaining. I really don't feel like, because I feel like it's just gonna spoil the moment of having this Springbok side achieve what they've achieved, and to read about those kind of things where New Zealand are lodging formal complaints against the refereeing and the performance of Wayne Barnes and his officiating team for that final, just I think spoils everything. Spoils the moment, the occasion of going back to back, going bok to bok.
Oh, bok to bok. Bok to bok.
So for me, it's like, you're never gonna find a perfect performance by any referee in any sporting code.
I think there's something about Rugby World Cups now where you feel that the refs are put under more and more spotlights, and I'll say the only thing that I'll probably would like maybe to change is some of the calls that are made off the field.
So TMO
stuff. It just feels at times for me it's almost like football, the VAR.
Yeah.
And you rather empower the ref. Yes, if there's an obvious, clear thing that has been missed.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
But it just feels at the moment there's a lot of refereeing that is happening off the field that maybe needs to be looked at. Is that something that you want to continue with? Because even in football now,
referees aren't keen on making those big decisions.
Yes, and you're leaving it for upstairs, or unless you've clearly missed it, which is okay. It's fine. That's what technology is there. And I don't like the fact that now we're going more and more putting the human beings that ref these games under more and more scrutiny, and then it becomes about sport, guys, is not perfect.
No.
I think everyone understands that sport is not perfect. The reason we love sport is also it's unpredictable.
Yep.
And we were 10 years ago, we were comfortable. You know what? It was a
blunder.
We had a bad goal, we lost, we move on.
Yeah.
Now it just feels like it's almost become personal for the people that are officiating the game, and that's not right for me. And we could do better. And again, how do you change that? I don't know.
I also think I agree with you in the sense that the TMO has a lot more power now in the game than it had before. For me, it makes it a bit of a diluted contest. And there were so many people that were speaking about the red card that Sam Cane got.
That was clear.
It's clear, it is clear for me. The bunker system works because it's nice because you can review and sort of judge the severity of foul play of that nature.
Yes.
But TMO has quite a big role now that it plays in rugby. New Zealand were also complaining about the disallowed try that I think Richie Mwanga scored or set up. Complaining about so many things.
There was before the
one before they scored.
Yeah.
And it just makes it's a little bit difficult for the people that pay to watch. You get so many stop-start games where it sort of dilutes the whole contest. You watch for 2 minutes, stop. Watch for a minute, stop. It's like American football in a sense now, that the TMO involvement has sort of taken away the excitement of the game. But it's a necessary advent of the game as well, because it really just stamps out some of the things that are blatantly missed by the referees on the field.
As long as you're not re-refereeing moments and matches, I think that's what everyone wants. Is that don't re-ref. You got to give the man in the middle, woman in the middle, the unfortunately,
authority,
at times the rub of the green of the bounce of the ball can not fall your side, and we accepted that for many years as part of sport. I'm sure Arsenal fan will say something else, but that's for later.
He's still complaining about it.
He wants a rematch.
Everyone wants rematches. Yeah, no, let's not go on those subjects.
That's a subject
story for another day, please.
But yeah, I think that's what it boils down to for me. But I think it was a heck of a World Cup. Southern Hemisphere successful yet again.
Up the south. But yeah, I also think it's probably one of the best Rugby World Cup or Springbok sides ever.
You actually been pointing this out to have played Ireland, played New Zealand, have played England, Scotland, France, lost one in those games. Says a lot about. I mean, we spoke about the draw that was done silly. 4 years ago? And to have played all the big sides along the way, couple of tough injuries, only 2 injuries, which was also very good to have managed. But again, speaks about spreading the load. I mean, I was looking at some of the minutes in the World Cup. In South Africa, weren't a lot of guys on the red, which was really good. Bonambi was probably one guy after Malcolm Marx's injury. He was probably under the pump. Wasn't surprised at all to have seen that in the final. And eventually
something had to give.
Something gave. But to again, going back to the point, the difference between 1 and 2, giving experiences, giving opportunities to an entire squad. And we still got the likes of Kenan Moody, who are still
20 years old.
World Cup winner at 20, and he's got a future ahead of him. And now the difference is he's coming back with World Cup experience. And we need to find out what position is he going to be
play now,
going to be playing going forward. And again, I think the big part of that is at the core of the group. Yes, you probably say most of the forwards on the other side of 30. You might be 1 or 2 guys that might make it to the World Cup, but they'll probably be looking to freshen that up, give experiences to other guys. So, we look forward. And, of course, Rassie is staying as well, which is, I think, great news on his birthday yesterday. It was announced that he will be sticking around. Probably that puts that conversation
to bed
as well.
But also, I think a lot of people were like, but why is Rassie coming back as head coach again? Why wasn't there a decision to probably give it to a Dion Davids or a Mzwandile Stick? Because he's obviously got the role of director of rugby, which looks after the whole ecosystem of South African rugby. So it's for me, it's an interesting appointment. I think when both Dion Davids and Mzwandile Stick re-signed as assistants before the Rugby World Cup, that kind of gave you the indication that they're not going to be, being elevated to a head coach position, which in many ways is a little bit like, oh man, we would have wanted to see these guys being elevated to a responsibility like head coach.
So Mzwandile was given the opportunity of some of the A-side games?
Yeah, he gave
which
A-side
is
games,
So do you think maybe he does the first 2 years, and then it's maybe they still need more time, or what do you think?
I think for me, if there was going to be a decision being made between the two of them, Mzwandile Stick or Dion Davids, I think that they would have given it to Dion Davids because he's got more head coaching experience. I mean, he coached the Southern Kings in Super Rugby. He's been a head coach before, so maybe that would have been the temptation from SA Rugby, from Rassie Erasmus, to make that decision going towards Dion Davids and less to Mzwandile Stick. Not because Mzwandile Stick can't do the job. I think for me it's a matter of experience and sort of regaining and relearning that he's been a part of 2 Rugby World Cup winning Springbok sides. Surely that is enough experience to elevate him to the head coach position. But I think sometimes with that position, there's a lot of pressure.
Springboks.
Yeah, there comes a lot of pressure from a lot of people, not just from the South African public. There's sponsor obligations. There's a lot more that goes into that role that a lot of people don't really see in hindsight. Yeah.
Felix Jones gone.
Yeah, Felix Jones gone
He's,
to England.
The Irishman has gone to England. Okay, so do you think, because he was more skills,
Yeah, he was more skills based. He was more, he was one of those tactical coaches where they brought in from Munster.
Their time together in Ireland.
So he looked after the skills together with Mzwandile Stick. But also Felix Jones's responsibility was much bigger than that. You know, he monitored a lot of the guys that weren't playing in South Africa. It gave the Springboks a different perspective when, I mean, beating Scotland, France, and England in a Rugby World Cup. Sort of, you can attribute that to the coaching of a Felix Jones who knows those guys, knows those systems quite well, being based in Ireland. It's unfortunately we didn't beat Ireland, but I think his responsibility was way bigger than just looking after the skills. It was more of a monitoring and coming up with game plans that suits those different Northern Hemisphere sides. So playing against Scotland in that group stages, beating France in the quarterfinal was huge, and beating England in the semi-final was huge. Boils down to the work that Felix Jones did.
Guys, I know probably you might struggle to see this, but there's a team of 22.
Yeah.
Management of the Springboks.
Yeah.
And we know of Rassie. We know of course, Jacques.
Yeah.
Mzwandile.
Yeah.
Dion. Because he's done some of the press as well. But that speaks to you about like all the stuff that happens behind the scenes. I mean, that's a team in itself. Group of 22 people pushing together, analysts, team performance, dietitian. There's so many people that were videographer that were involved, and at times we don't get to see them. And again, that's all falls under, of course, Rassie managing that entire team, bringing those people in as well. So well done to everyone, and a lot of them we don't get to see. But it shows you what's possible if you can put a very diverse group of people. That's another thing. Probably there's all sorts. I'm not gonna be specific. Which again, kudos to everyone involved there.
Let's move on. Let's move on. Shout out to Amapogo Pogo. You are our heroes.
I think they should be playing the
Mkharimbe,
the second version in between.
That's gonna sort us out. Don't worry. Cricket is another World Cup that's on the go. Performances by South Africa have been largely great, barring
they always are spit bumps.
Barring the two that we've lost. The second one, I feel like, Nons, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this. The second loss, which is quite a bit of a record loss to India yesterday at Eden Gardens in Kolkata, doesn't sting as much as losing to the Netherlands. And that's a controversial point, but for me it feels like, but one, we've already qualified for the semi-finals, but two, we didn't really expect this side to beat India, having seen what India has done in their own conditions in this tournament for 8 matches in a row now.
I think we need to speak from both teams' perspective. I think I'm going to start from South Africa's point of view and say they qualified a night before this game for the semis. And it was a good thing they qualified because coming to this game against India, knowing that, you know what, guys, we are through. Because there were going to be tricky games. India, Afghanistan. Back to back. Afghanistan have got phenomenal subcontinent bowlers. Phenomenal. Like, I can expect a bit of an upset as well
against Afghanistan.
Afghanistan because they've got the bowlers in surfaces that are starting to show signs of wearing out and starting to turn a lot more. Okay, they've got the team.
Yeah.
Jonathan Trott has done a fantastic job. The disappointing part about yesterday's performance, after knowing that you've gone through to the semi-final, for starters, is the freedom.
Yes.
Guys, we are through.
Play.
Let's go and enjoy ourselves. India is a free hit.
Yeah.
Let's have a go. Let's throw everything at them.
Yeah.
Let's try stuff because we might go back to plan A in the final if you get into the final.
Yeah.
But this game right now, let's just throw stuff at them.
Yeah.
Okay, what does South Africa do especially with bowling?
Yeah.
Okay, we had this conversation yesterday with some of the guys. Marco Jansen has been phenomenal in this tournament. He's taken 12 wickets in the power play.
In the power play alone, yeah.
I think he's probably about 14, 15 wickets in the tournament.
Yep.
Those coming in the first 10. So
Yes.
it speaks about a guy who's given the Proteas some great starts.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, Proteas average about 3 wickets in the power play.
Yeah.
Lungisani Ngidi as well has been not always taking the wickets, but as a partnership, they've been awesome. So again, it has allowed Kagiso Rabada to bowl in the middle.
Yes.
Okay. So rugby, you speak about the 5-3 splits, 6-2 splits, 7-1 splits. What could have South Africa thrown at India that would have been like left field? Curveball. Okay, they would have planned for Jansen.
Yeah.
They would have planned for Ngidi.
Yep.
Open with KG or open with
Cash.
or open with Markram.
Yeah.
Try stuff out we haven't seen in the World Cup. Because like for me, tactically, it would have been, let's try stuff out because you want to just put India off.
Yep.
And now when I'm sitting back from India's point of view, they would have planned, okay, Jansen, Ngidi are going to come at us.
Yeah.
And looking at how India approached it yesterday, said, okay, Jansen has been the best player or best bowler in the power play for South Africa. Has been giving
them good starts.
Yeah. Let's have a dip at him.
Yep.
And they had a dip. Yes, he didn't start well, but they had a dip, and of course the occasion in front of that. It's a good learning experience for him. And I just thought it was an opportunity missed because even in the toss, India chose to do things the opposite. There was a South Africa where the team that looks to bat first. India were the team that always wanted to chase. And India said, no, you know what? We're going to change things around. We're going to bat first because that's also part of going into those playoffs. You want to be, you have ticked those boxes. We've chased, we've set scores. You don't want a one-trick pony. At the moment, I do feel
South Africa,
the only way we win the World Cup, we have to bat first. And for me, you can't say we need to win the toss to win the World Cup because then you just you put all your eggs in one basket. And that's where for me, even hearing Utemba when he was asked what would you have done, he said we would have batted first. So you're not like trying to work on the other aspects of your game that could also help you in the final because like I said, there's nothing that's guaranteed. It does just starts the game. And if it tails is the goal and it falls on heads and now here we go again. No, you can't just be relying on that. So that's where for me I just feel we've been a little bit more rigid in terms of our tactics, our approach, and that's why I use sometimes Urasi Rasmus was one of the most hated because he put stuff out. They did things that all of us
weren't expecting.
The scrum
in the 22.
In the 22,
from a mark.
We were all learning. I was learning for the first time. Like what? What's going on here? You know. So it I think tactically we could do a lot more. Surprise opposition and try things out. And now the Afghanistan game is a game where you're trying to get that momentum again. So you're not going to be like trying things out where the India game was a perfect game for me against that opposition.
I agree, Nons. I mean, because when you look at that, teams now have those stats that we have as well. You know, they look at that and say, Marco Jansen, best bowler for South Africa in the power play. How can we put him under pressure? How can we nullify his impact in that phase of the game? Put him under pressure. He's young. He might not have the know-how of coming back in the middle overs, and he didn't. He didn't have the know-how of coming back in the middle overs and sort of rectifying the mistakes that he made in that power play. And it's kudos to India as well, because I mean, it's an Indian side that knows the conditions. So for me, it's one of those things where I think also they could have been flexible as well with the lineup. They could have probably brought in Lazard. They didn't probably. I don't think India would have prepared for Lazard. They wouldn't have prepared for maybe an Andile Pechlukwai who hasn't had a game this whole entire World Cup. That probably would have been the game that he could have played in. And just given India something else to think about. Yes, it probably won't be a threat pace-wise, but he gives you something different that the opposition might not have planned for on the day. It's a free hit, like you say. And then you come back to Afghanistan, and then you try and consolidate what works for you. The blueprint that you've worked hard to build over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 months in the build-up to this Cricket World Cup. And I think that's where also they missed one hell of a trick. Now you're wrestling back the momentum against Noor Ahmed, against Fazul, Faruqi,
Onabi, Rashid Khan.
You know, and that's going to be difficult because, like you say, Jonathan Trott has done an amazing job with that Afghanistan side. I think it's a side that's also, for me, has learned how to bat as individuals and as a collective at international level. You have the two guys that are really good at the top, and then in the middle, they sort of trying to scratch together
280,
ways.
260, 270. That's been there.
And now they trying to elevate themselves to a side that can chase down 300 plus. And that's going to be the danger for me.
I think it's important as well to, like I said, to speak from an Indian point of view and say, what a masterclass of a bowling performance. I'm going to focus on the birthday boy later. Bowling masterclass yesterday. I saw 5 bowlers. And I thought, wow. Like, it was relentless. To have Bumrah and Siraj opening the bowling. And we always speak about lines. We always speak about length. And how this Indian side, like, they are relentless on off stump. We saw Quinny looking for room outside off stump. You don't get that from this Indian side. Like, if you're getting a chop on, that means when are you looking square?
So you're looking square.
And the ball is not there. It's not there. It's not there. And Usiraj was bringing the ball back into the stumps for Quinny, right? So that's a starting point. There are that 5 together. I've mentioned Usiraj. I've mentioned Bumrah. One is like nipping the ball in. The other one is swinging the ball. And at good lengths, no bad balls in between. No bad balls. And then you had Shami and Jadeja. And I was like, this is like not fair. Because like you replace those two with these two, and they were like nothing has changed. With Jadeja, I mean, you saw Temba like off stump 100 Ks. I think people also don't understand what the pace that the guy bowls at. He bowls it like 99, 100, 105, and the ball still turns. The ball still turns. Keshav to turn the ball, he generally bowls slower. This guy is bowling quicker and he still turns. And then remember now, so again, when we're in Indian or subcontinent conditions, we always think, spin is going to be a big threat. When India is playing, the seamers first take the wickets. You 3-4 down up front. And then when Jadeja comes, guess what's going to happen? Because Miller, Janssen, now they're getting to face Jadeja. And Jadeja doesn't also give you a bad ball. So, and then of course, when Kuldeep Yadav, you're already under the pump. And you saw what the value of a quality wrist spinner against your lower order. And I think that what for me, I think if South Africa can look at the way the Indian team, because when we think about bowling, we think of individuals. Actually, it's about the group.
Partnerships.
Bowling plans as a group. And that, what does that do? It says, okay, you better take a risk against our best ball. you have to take a risk against their best ball.
Yeah.
They're not like giving you pies there outside
Yeah.
off stump now and then, like bad balls. You have to play their best balls and hit them for 4. And that was what South Africa didn't get at all yesterday.
And they hardly give you extras.
There was 2.
This Indian side did not give you extras.
There was
2 compared to, I don't know.
110 wides for the Proteas in the World Cup.
That's just, you can't win games. You can't win tournaments like that.
I think there was like 30 in the match.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday.
And it's just such a dangerous position to be in. You know, if you, sure, the bowling plans are there, but you still have to find the discipline as an individual to not overstep. I mean, it's criminal for a guy like Tabraiz Shamsi to overstep as a spinner.
It's like the second time in the World Cup. Yeah,
like you can't be doing that. It really means that, 1, you're under pressure. 2, your plan is not solid enough that you actually trust it to work for you, and that's why you're going overboard. The anxiety of missing that, set plan is overwhelming you, and then you're going over. You stepping and you're overcompensating to try and get wrestle back that confidence of actually trusting this plan. And I think that's the danger for South Africa. If hypothetically we were speaking about them not winning this World Cup, it will boil down to discipline, plans that the guys aren't executing with full confidence. And it's bowlers win your tournaments.
We always say batters will win your matches, bowlers win your tournaments. And I think that's important because England, that phase between when they won the World Cup in 2019, they did not bowl a no ball in 4 years. 4 years. So it speaks about like the discipline, taking care of the 1%. 4 years build up to the World Cup. They had not bowled a no ball.
No one overstepped.
No one overstepped.
No one bowled a beam.
4 years. So it shows you like all the things like now we're talking about. I understand this wide when you wide, because you're looking to bowl a bouncer. Fair, that's a fair wide. This for me is like a controllable. So that means you're starting your ball too straight. Okanye awuyazi bowler is a swing or not, and then you get surprised at this swing. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a controllable.
Yeah.
That is a controllable. This for me is acceptable because I'll rather have a bowler bowling a bouncer here because that's intent.
Yes.
I'm trying to hit you on the head.
Yeah.
If the bowler up, that ball is going to go for 6.
Yes.
That's the difference between the domestic level and the international level. Those guys here will move that ball for 6. You won't get away with that. And like that's where for me it just feels like we generally in the change room we speak about soft wides.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try to curb the soft wides.
Yes.
It's soft. That's soft. That's soft. And especially when there's a new batter. When the new batter comes in, you want to put pressure as much as you can. Now all of a sudden I'm giving an easy start to, when there isn't as much pressure. And I think that was the point I was trying to make, the England, what they did. The other part, I think it probably will go missing. I think we need to speak about Keshav. We need to speak about KG.
Yeah.
You could see like what world-class players do in the heat of chaos.
Yeah.
Because they literally stood out.
1 for 30 in 10.
KG went at 48.
Yeah.
And Maharaj was 30.
Yeah.
And these are the team that considered basically 330 runs. 2 bowlers bowled 20 overs for basically 80 runs.
80 runs, yeah.
20 overs, that's 4s. You know? And that tells you how under pressure the rest of the bowling attack was. So I think we must give credit to KG. That's what world-class players do. They stand out, and that's where we go back to tactic-wise. Can we have, knowing that Rohit Sharma, Shubman Gill are the main guys, maybe we start with KG or we start with Keshav. It doesn't have to be for 5 overs, 3 overs at their best players. Have a look. That means if you get a wicket, Virat Kohli is in early and Ulendo is dealing with, KG or Keshav is dealing with them. Tactically, that's what you could have done. Knowing that as well, India and South Africa are similar in their team makeups. Okay, India just says, okay, we'll have 5 bowlers. South Africa says we'll have 5 bowlers. and the all-rounder in the team is Jadeja for
Yep.
India, Janssen
for South Africa.
for South Africa, and then it's just the batters.
Yeah.
So their strategies are similar.
Yeah.
And for me, with South Africa, if you can take the wickets against India up front,
You're putting them under pressure.
you're exposing them.
Yeah.
Because I saw the Bumrah at 8. I'm like, hey,
No way.
hey, open season.
Shami
You know?
was at 8 the one
Yeah,
time.
yeah, you know, so it's like South Africa. When South Africa collapse early, it exposes what
So
they have. So the
much.
mindset should be, let's go hard at them.
Yeah.
Try to get as many wickets as possible up front to expose those guys there. So I think that's what I would have liked to have learned, and also approach it that way.
Yeah.
And I think the nice part is they all have another. I'm putting my, I'm touching the man. They'll have another chance.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we'll get through the semis.
Yeah.
Whoever we face in the semis, we get through.
Yeah.
And face India in the final again.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think then we have what it takes to actually beat India in the final?
I think if Australia,
Ahmedabad is the venue for the final, so
they might
keep that
change. Might change
keep-
knowing those guys. mate.
keep that in mind. That possibly Ahmedabad is.
So I think if India in the final, it would be a 70% India final. If it's a team that is, or it could be a Southern Hemisphere final, right? And I think we'll probably make for a better final, because then
Australia, South Africa.
Australia, South Africa, Australia, New
Zealand.
Zealand. Pakistan might have a say, Afghanistan might have a say, but like what I think will be a better final if the host nation is not there, because then do you know why I say that?
Yeah,
Because the conditions would be
Neutral.
they could prepare flat wickets, and it would be whoever best team on the day wins.
Yeah.
Whereas at the moment, if it's the host team, guys, you can bank on it. The
Yeah.
wicket is going to turn. If it's India in the final, the wicket is going to turn, because they know their strength. And of course, those seamers on a wicket that is up and down.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
For me, I still think that South Africa will get to the final. I agree with you that for the benefit of actually having a really good final, it would suit everyone that India
Yes.
is not in the final.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've seen also the games that they've played against the non-subcontinental side. So your Australia, the Australia game was such an anomaly because they played Australia in Chennai, and then 2 days later, I think it was New Zealand who played Bangladesh there in Chennai, if I'm not mistaken.
Different.
And it was a different kind of surface. It had pace, it had
Yeah.
bounce. It didn't turn at all, but it turned 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's one of those things where you're like, oh.
We also
How?
need to put this point out there. ICC events, it meant to be ICC comes and takes control, right? So ICC, I think before the tournament, they said they wanted wickets that are slightly favoring the batters.
Yeah.
Probably this, what was it, 60-40? Not slightly, 60-40 in the batter's favor.
Yeah.
Good bounce, good pace, 300 pluses score.
Yeah.
But jiggy when the host team is there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, I think we all know. I mean, obviously ICC. Yeah. The powers that be in cricket.
Yeah.
You know. So, and being the host nation, it's not supposed to be that blatant. I think for me to have, they just happen to be playing on used wickets.
Yep.
And everyone else just happens to play on fresher wickets.
Mm.
And that's where, I mean, not a lot of people will talk about this, which is, let's think about that bread.
Yeah. But and it's a fair point. I mean, it's an obvious observation. To see how much favored the conditions have been for the home side.
Yeah.
It's just been like that. And I really hope that it's something that can be looked at in future World Cups, because you don't want a case where the home side is the
conditions for them and conditions for us
are different.
Yeah.
And that's for me is just, it's unfair, really.
Yeah.
It really is unfair. You know, 2027 when we come to South Africa,
Green Mambas,
Namibia and and Zimbabwe. We are just going to see green Mambas at the Wanderers and at Newlands.
Yeah.
It can't be like that. It has to be neutral
Yeah.
to a standard where both sides have to adapt to.
And if it's the natural progression of wickets becoming slower and starting to get more turn as the tournament goes by,
Fair enough, yeah.
Fair.
But it mustn't
Because
start like that.
if you're going to have 6 weeks of 50 over cricket, the wickets eventually
Wear out. Yeah.
That's fine. No one is saying, yeah, but like if it's the same ground 2 days apart, the wicket looks
completely different.
Then that's too obvious.
Yeah.
The other aspect I want to talk to you about, there's probably a little bit of a controversy now and then.
Yeah.
When it comes to DRS.
Yeah.
And again, I think a lot of people probably need a lot of clarity of
how it works.
How DRS works. Because probably there were a couple of controversies yesterday. I mean, we saw how Andrew Claassen was a bit annoyed to have, like, how does that ball, or Rasif van der Dussen kind of technical mistake there where it showed missing and then eventually showed that it was out. You know, like, and some people might not understand the DRS, how it works, and at times, like, we're going back to that ref conversation again. But the interesting part about cricket is that some of the times you see the umpire, like, they like, really? Is that like hitting? So they're also like shocked.
Yeah.
You want to like maybe chat about that a little bit to...
Yeah, I mean, I've also seen it. There was one game where it came up as, I think it was in England that was involved in that situation where the first frame came out, or the first replay came out and it said it was missing the stumps, and then the actual graphic came out as hitting the stumps. So ICC also had to put out a statement after that to say that this thing is still reliable because you know, it works in a certain way.
Yes.
But there are also glitches with any system and any technology that you use. For me, it's a difficult thing, you know, technology, because you never know what the outcome of it will be, you know, and I think sometimes, yes, it is designed to get the right decision, but it's still technology. It's still something that can glitch, can not work at a certain instance. But I think by and large, DRS has worked properly for quite a long time, since it was introduced into the game. I think it was about 15 years now that we've had DRS. Might be.
Yeah,
it's just over
like
10 years. It's just over 10 years that DRS has been in the game. But by and large, it's been something that actually works properly for all of the sides. And I know India was very adverse to DRS when it first came out. I think the first 5 years of DRS, they never played with. You know, they never, you know, whenever there's a series that involved, they didn't agree to having DRS in that series. And I think it's grown, but it has its flaws. It has its mistakes as well.
So I think to explain a little bit the technology is there's an element of this. There's so many cameras.
Yeah.
So when the ball hits the pad, it needs to predict the rest of the path.
Yeah.
There's the element of prediction, right? Where now, and with any prediction, it doesn't mean that it's 100% correct. There's an error that has been built into the system, right? So like generally for the ball to be 3 reds hitting, it has to be more than 50%
of the ball
hitting the stump, which is an important aspect,
right?
Because so sometimes when it's umpires, I'm going to use this vuvuzela.
Vuvuzela.
Okay, so sometimes the ball might be hitting here. And because there's that error built into the technology, maybe that ball is actually here. It's slightly off. So that's why when that ball is hitting more than 50% of the stump, you can say, you know what, there's a fair chunk of the ball
hitting the stumps.
hitting the stump. So there's error that is built into it. So that's why some people don't understand the umpire's call element part of it, because that predicting of that path in itself is not 100%
Yes.
concrete that we can use that, because then if it was, we can then just say any ball that is hitting the stump is out.
Yeah.
Is out. So that's where now you still have to say the umpire's call still needs to stand because of the current technology that we're using. We don't think that more than 50% of the ball
is hitting the stumps.
Yeah. And that's where now people still need to understand that there is, like you're saying, there's still, 10 plus years of the technology, but we still, like, obviously with time, it's going to get better and better. Yeah. And that's where, as soon as, if you double step down the track and the ball hits you on the pad, even they'll say not out because it's more than 3 meters.
Yeah.
Because now the technology can't predict
how far that ball's gonna travel
out, like beyond 3 meters.
Yeah.
Because now it's like I'm proper guessing.
I'm guessing.
I'm proper guessing. The technology is saying I'm proper guessing.
Yeah.
So I think that's the element that people also need to understand that comes with the technology, and obviously with time, it has come a long way. I think the protocols have got better in look for the no ball, you know, so it's clear for everyone, and the umpires follow a certain sequence of things, and it can be frustrating at times where you're like, but like
you have to make sure.
So that even that's one person sitting there is like, do we know that it didn't? Yeah. So that's why they have to go to sneaker, even though it's like quite obvious, or ultra edge, so that everyone is like, okay, we can move to the next part of the sequence. So yeah, I think the part that I want to talk about though was the Klaasen one.
Yeah,
is that so the ball is on the sweep, Jadeja 100 Ks. So it hits him very low down. Yeah, and you can see off stump, you can see a bit of middle stump, and obviously in his line, so you can see Klaasen sweeps the line, right? So he sees the ball coming this way
into him.
Yeah, it's like it's not going to be hitting the stumps because he's hanging on leg stump. Yeah. But it did turn a little bit. Yeah, Jadeja did turn that ball. But the thing is for me is that at 100 Ks, the guys played the sweep. That distance for the ball to now turn and go square, that's where the controversy for me comes from. It's like, I'm not sure in that distance on the sweep
at that pace
the ball is going to turn that much and come back on the stumps, because I could see off stump, I could see middle stump. That's where for me I was like, I'm not sure. That's the only thing that I want to say about that. Okay, so it's not saying if it was Kuldeep who bowls it slower and then the ball turns and you say fair enough, because he bowls it way 20 K slower than Jadu. So that's the only thing that I want to talk about. But I still back to the technology. And I now understand umpires call a lot more, because I used to be like, nah, umpires call. But the only thing that I would love with all sorts, umpires. Shout out swords. Is that, and I think the umpires in this tournament, most of the time, have stayed away from those iffy decisions. When they're not sure,
they don't give it out.
Yeah. If the technology changes it,
fair enough.
Because you don't want your umpires again. An umpire that's saying it's going to be clipping. No. We're not there for clipping, Chief. It must be hitting.
It must hit.
It must hit.
Yeah.
You know, so I think you could give credit as well to the umpires, where I see them at times where they look shocked and they surprised with those 3 reds. And that's fair enough. If you make that call in the middle saying, I'm not sure, fair enough.
I think the point of it is that DRS is not perfect, like VAR.
iOS.
But if VAR is... It's there's a lot of human the amount of human error with VAR is a lot
just
more
like Max, human error champion.
There's a lot more than why are you taking a dig on Max now?
We were going there. It just felt right.
A lot more human error in VAR than it is in DRS. I think it's
VAR.
in VAR than in DRS.
Yeah.
I think it's a good way to move on.
Yeah.
To the AFL, the African Football League that Mamelodi Sundowns are currently playing in. I know a lot of people, and it's tough to gain access to the games as well because it's not obviously on SuperSport, but it's on other platforms.
Well, you can't say the other
No,
platforms.
but the platforms are there. It's SABC. But it's difficult for people to access it because it's on what do they call it? DTTV.
Yeah,
DTV. I think it's on DTV. And it's a competition that a lot of people have raised eyebrows about, especially if you are in the know about the football structures, and how having an African Football League slap bang in the middle of the South African League just makes it so much more to deal with. You have to rearrange fixtures. You have to, the more Sundowns progresses, the more you have to change fixtures. They have to play catch up a lot in the league. Who's favored now? Is it lopsided towards another Sundowns league victory because now they can just beat teams when they are tired, but Sundowns are also tired because they play a lot of games. But it's also a league that's very lucrative. It comes with quite a hefty paycheck. I think 76 million rand, if I'm not mistaken, if you win the African Football League. They lost last night to Wydad Casablanca in the first leg final. So they're playing in the final that has two legs.
Even that, I always
Also, I'm like,
such an effort.
why?
To do.
Why do you have two bites at the chair? It's a final. You have to have one bite.
Yeah, but it's probably again traveling arrangements and all that other stuff, which is not the same when you compare to like European countries.
Yeah.
So the only way to even it out
is to play two legs.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense to me. But also there was a logistical era for this African Football League final, especially the second leg that's supposed to is going to take place here in South Africa. It was scheduled for the 11th of November. But the 11th of November was the same day that Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates are going to play the Soweto Derby. So they had a lot of meetings last week to try and sort out that logistical nightmare because even though it's in two different cities, Pretoria and Johannesburg, the logistical stuff is still very difficult to overcome because you want, and also from a sponsorship point of view, you want people to come to a Soweto Derby regardless.
Yeah.
But you also want people to go watch an African Football League final between two of the biggest teams on the continent, which is Mamelodi Sundowns and Wydad Casablanca. So they've shifted the final, the second leg final, to the 12th of November, which is the Sunday, which makes it a little bit better. But for me, it's a question of the egos that are involved in making that decision, because I don't think that it would have been an easy decision to make, because the league would have been like, there's no way we're moving the Soweto Derby to a day later. But also there's a lot of SASRIA recommendations around SASRIA Act.
Wow.
So it's disaster management. It's disaster management because of what happened almost 30 years ago now with the Stampede at Ellis Park during the Derby. So there's a lot of recommendations that from a legal point of view, the league has to take. From an organizing point of view, they have to follow. For instance, you'll never see a derby that starts at night. It's always a day game. It's always at the FNB Stadium because that's the venue that can hold the amount of people that it demands. It's also the day can't be a Sunday because transport issues as well, better to have it on a Saturday where there's accessibility to transport to get you to and from the stadium. So there's a lot of those sort of nitty-gritties around the derby and the organization of the derby that goes into it. So for me, the Eagles that involved around that stuff, because the African Football League people will be like, but this one game is worth more than this whole league put together. How can you tell us, no, you can't move this thing? So that for me was an interesting point of view to try and, I was following this shifting of this logistic of having the African Football League in place.
Yeah. Just looking at the fixtures here, Mamelodi Sundowns that weekend was supposed to play TS Galaxy.
Yeah.
So that game is rearranged. And I want to start in that point. Like, I often look at our log league table, and I'm like, these guys have played 5 games.
Yeah.
Other guys on 8, 9, 10 games.
Yeah.
And then you're like, it's kind of like, but like, when Sundowns plays 3 points.
Yeah.
So in most leagues you say, matches doesn't guarantee 3 points.
3 points, yeah.
But like we know with Sundowns, 9 times out of 10 it guarantees them. So you got to think that team is currently number 1. It's not going to be when Sundowns eventually catches up games. And it just never sits well with me how you could be so off in your games. And it goes back to, again, this thing you're talking about of Champions League not aligned with the leagues.
Yeah.
And it's almost like it's a completely
separate window.
It's an African Champions League, guys.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be a good window for allow Sundowns to go back there, come back, and then continue with the league.
Yep.
And if it's 1-2 games off, be it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just continue being like so behind. And eventually, yes, for them, they've got a massive squad. Yeah. And when they come back, they're playing. Remember, Pete was complaining every day. Every day we're playing. And it like...
people are on the beach, bro.
Yeah.
why can't we sit in Bra?
Yeah. It's the integrity of the league. I think at times it gets put into question. We would see how can we... And even the windows. Remember, the windows used to be different. But when it comes to, like you said, Sundowns have been the pinnacle side of South Africa when it comes to representing in Africa, and you wish that all the teams would aspire to do well in Africa, and they've taken that mantle forward. They're not just competing in the PSL, they want to be recognized as the best team in Africa that can take them to those FIFA club champs and compete there. So Patrice has done some good work since he's been part of CAF. And I think that's something that needs a little bit more to align, I think, the leagues a lot more. But again, like you said, I think the fact that I think the Saturday, both derby and the final happening, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
We had to split. And I think for everyone who wants to be maybe part of that as well, second leg being at home for Sundowns, I think you want to give people the opportunity
to go out,
to go both. If you want to have that type of weekend, you can have it. Instead of having to choose and your screens, you're watching one, and So, it just feels there's a lot of good work Patrice has done, especially commercially, since he's been part of CAF. I think we could do a lot more when it comes to the organizing and aligning the leagues and making sure even the transfer windows. Even AFCON, that's another touchy topic for Jan, which is left field. But all the best Sundowns. The Droby is also coming.
Kabuyelu.
Yeah.
What's also final point on that? Also for me, it's so good to see Sundowns now. Well, not now, but they've been like a powerhouse now in African football for quite a bit of time. What was so fantastic for me to see, I think it was the semi-final that they were playing Al Ahly, the club of the century. Rolani Mokoena was asked the question if they fear Al Ahly, and it was such a long-winded question from the journalist, and then the answer was brilliant as well, because he broke down some of the things that the North African teams do to intimidate
I remember
teams that come and play against Al Ahly, whether it's in Cairo or wherever they play. And it was such a brilliantly articulated answer, because it shows how Sundowns have learned to play continental football. They've learned what the dirty tactics are in continental football, the intimidation factor, knowing that logistically it's going to be a nightmare going to, I don't know, Mazembe
TP Mazembe,
or going to Casablanca or going to Cairo, and you're not going to have the same treatment from the people there as we would have here. So that for me is something that the other South African teams can learn from, being consistently in the group stages of the African of CAF Champions League consistently, because that's how you learn. That's when you travel. That's when you come back. You learn. You don't have nobody's saying that Pirates and Chiefs need to win the CAF competition, but it's a building step. Sundowns didn't just win it in 2016, I think it was. They didn't just win it. They knew how to win it because they had been there, done that, learned how to travel and play against those sides in African competition, which is great. It puts them in great stead.
Yeah.
Moving forward, and the last point about our podcast today is South African hockey, both men and women's teams qualifying for the Olympic Games. Is it Paris 2024? Paris 2024. The South African men's beat Egypt 2-1, and the South African women beat Ghana 9-0.
Bakana.
Oh, Bakana. When did last did I hear that?
2010, Baba.
But yeah, it's a great achievement from the Hockey Association. It's one of the smaller associations in the country that deserves a lot more funding, but doesn't get a lot more funding. And I think that's the big sort of talking point for us in this podcast about hockey and the achievements that they are getting without the same budget as a rugby or a cricket or a football. And we need that, because going to the Olympic Games is not a small thing. It's a big thing. To be an Olympic champion, to compete in Olympic Games is probably the pinnacle of any sportsman or sportswoman's career. And to be an Olympian is such a big deal. And I think if we can have a call to all corporates, those corporates that can, and I know the economic climate is very difficult to come and back a sporting federation, but if there is a sporting federation that any corporate can get behind and back and give money to, it's hockey, because they have so much to give. They are talented, one. Two, they give their all for South Africa with very, very little assistance. So if there is a corporate out there that wants to get behind hockey, please do so, because your company will be at the Olympic Games in Paris in 2024.
They punch above their weight, man.
Absolutely.
With the little that they have. And there is a guy from Kwalanga, Uzenani Krai, who is part of that setup. And I remember the first time, people from Kwalanga sending emails, donations for him to get that ticket. So that he can go, because they always have to constantly raise funds to get there, and it always like you're representing a country. Why does this thing has to be? You're not going there to you play. It's not an individual sport.
No,
like you're doing your own thing. You're representing South Africa, and in the Olympics, and people still need to raise funds. And like hockey is such a big sport in South Africa, obviously at school level.
Yeah.
And I think there's been a lot of work to get a professional league going and kind of give another path to young South Africans in being professional in this sport we see Astros every part of South Africa. So it is a sport that we play. But like I think what you mentioned again, sponsorship. We've seen what momentum has done when it comes to women's cricket.
Yep.
Literally helped women's cricket to become where they are, and the importance of corporate coming in, and of course the minister. We can't keep him out because it's nice that people can get credit for Springboks, and Springboks. The structure runs itself.
Yes.
The structure of rugby runs itself. Cricket structure runs itself, and occasionally it needs a bit of a nudge in the right direction. Football as well. Generally, I mean, it's privately owned. So we need to assist these teams that are, like I said earlier, punching above their weight. Because again, representing your country in the Olympics should be a really nice memory for people to have. But like, if it's now having to raise funds and be frustrated for years building up, that is not on.
And not knowing whether you're going to go or not because of that.
And you've put in the work as well.
You've put in the work to get there, but you don't know whether you are going to get there or not because you don't have the money to get there. So, final call. If you have the money, if you are a corporate that really is looking for a great place to go put their money, hockey is the best place to go. Nonce, thanks a lot.
Thank you. It's been a while. This guy's been busy. That's why we've been missing, guys.
Actually, it's my fault.
It's always your fault. Now we've been busy, but thank you for those who always keeping in touch. I think we're also gonna have we're gonna have some giveaways coming soon. You guys give us a like, give us a follow, and see you on the other side.
And we're gonna have some great guests as well. We've lined up some nice guests. Don't worry about the one guest that's not responding.
I wasn't
there. You know
there.
who you are. That one guest that's not responding. You know who you are. We won't call you out.
I prefer not to speak.
If I speak, I'll be in trouble. Thanks a lot, Nonce.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Catch you on the next episode of the All Rounders SA podcast.